Hey guys, welcome to the Game Changer Masterclass. I hope you are super jazzed and excited. I am. This is just one of those classes that kind of came to me that sometimes you just kind of end up being the messenger. And I don't know, obviously, I have a huge connection with this whole idea of being a game changer. And it's a surprising one at that. But I just thought it would be really helpful for those of you who are looking to change the game of your life, really, the direction, the trajectory, the process, the pathway, whatever it is that you're looking to do. I'm going to give you some of the things that I did as I was trying to change my path, as I was trying to change direction, career, love, all those things. It all kind of conglomerated into a lot of these strategies that I'm about to give you. So you're going to want to grab a piece of paper and a pen, a pencil, that kind of thing, notebook. For those of you who are my avid like class takers, grab that notebook, right? That's what we do here. It's so helpful because I'm just really giving you your own little Bible, right? This is your study guide. Like this is this is the story of you. This is the book of you. And so that's why the notebooks become so very important to all the classes that we take. Because then you can keep it for all time, right? For instance, if this video goes away at some point, you'll have your book, right? So, why is it important in the first place to be a game changer? I mean, seems kind of, you know, I don't know, self-centered in some ways, kind of egotistical in other ways. It really depends on kind of, how you see that. I think some people are obviously seeing that being a game changer is probably more a positive thing. But when we go to do it, it feels a little self-centered, and I think that's a natural place to go to when you're trying to do inner work, because you get a lot of outer pressure. And I know this game all too well because I've been through it so many times. And so I think it's important to be a game changer in your life, because when you recognize that things are not going the way that you believe they should be going in your world, you are always looking for these kind of outer experiences and systems and tips and tricks in order to get yourself back into a space of alignment, back into the game, right? And we're going to keep those analogies going. I was told that I was a game changer at a time that I didn't even know that I was one. And the story was brought up to me again through a mutual friend of mine who is coming back into living in the Indianapolis area. And this term resonated with me because I remember him telling me like 6 or 7 years ago, like, Janae, you're a game changer. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even believe it at that point that I was one. So really, I'm just glad that you're here, because that means you want to change the odds of your game. And who doesn't, right? So awesome that you're here. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and grab that paper and pen that I told you about. And I want to give you the first tactic that I used in recognizing, or at least changing the game for myself. And the first one is to change my patterns. That's what you do, right? You change your patterns. The interesting thing is, though, about this question or about this statement is that doing so requires that you know what they are, right? Saying that means that you already understand what your patterns are. And being able to recognize them is a whole nother issue, right? So, but when we become a little more aware of our patterns, we become a little more of the ways in which we sabotage ourselves. We sabotage the situations, the environments, and whatnot around us. So our systems are what keep us moving forward every day. We feel that we are less in control of our lives. We seek more patterns to help us and help ourselves going forward. One of the big things that gets produced when we see a pattern is dopamine. And it's a great chemical in our body that's associated with patternicity. And many drugs actually and stimulants offer us dopamine, which is probably a reason why a lot of people seek those routes, right? Alternative ways of, producing a chemical in our body so we can help create, order among the chaos. And so it organizes things in our minds. We like to use patterns to help guide our decision making, to help tell us, the paths that we're supposed to be on. And so when you're recognizing these patterns, you're drawn to them naturally. It's a chemical reaction in many ways. So you when you become dependent on a chemical, whether an external stimulant or an internal one that you're producing yourself, you are going to be reliant on it. You're going to habitually seek that out. And if it is a bad pattern, then you are going to keep repeating your behavior. So the idea is that we want to be able to actually seek out the patterns and hunt them out, literally, and tackle them, right, in this game that we're playing. Because otherwise, they keep controlling our lives and they keep pushing us, towards not developing and not growing and not thriving. We get addicted to all kinds of the bad patterns, just like we can with the good ones, like smoking, overeating, and anger even. This is why shutting down the patterns cold turkey is like typically doesn't work, right? Shutting them down is really tough to do. So I would suggest that you use your notebook and list out a bunch of patterns that you might have, perceive to have. You could ask other people to help you with this, people in your family. You may know your bad habits right away. Those might be really easy to see. But you may not understand some of your emotional patterns. And those are a little harder to see or recognize. And I urge you to dig around in them. I mean, use your kind of emotional tolerance. Like, where are you emotionally every day? There is a pattern there, and a chemical pattern that you are probably addicted to. Do you wake up really optimistic, or are you waking up going, oh my God, what do I have to put up with today? And you set the tone of everything with this chemical and, balance or imbalance that you're producing on a daily basis. So recognizing your pattern is going to be one of the biggest steps and one of the first steps in order to be a game changer. And a way to do this is just to break up, your day in some ways and kind of recognize kind of how you are in each part of your day. And maybe that will give you some indications too of the patterning that you might be exuding on a daily basis. Okay. So, you blow up your belief patterns. That's the second one that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Now, what's interesting about belief patterns, and I've talked to many of you about your own beliefs, or I've done other classes where we talk about our limiting beliefs, and I think they're super important to have. I really, really do. I also think they're important to realize that the more you focus on them, the more they become part of the crutch, the excuse system, the no action space that you sit in on a daily basis. They give us a really good and convincing story as to not act or not achieve or not get past, right? And that's okay, because I think it's a really natural space to want to play in, because on the other side of that is usually a lot of uncertainty. And for those of you who don't thrive in an uncertain space, that is going to be harder for you to do. I thrive in the uncertain space. I do it because I look at it as a challenge, and I just enjoy it. I think more than I should, because then it brings up other issues for me. But I think it's important to mention that if you are constantly focusing on these limiting beliefs, you are going to have some troubles. Like I said, I think they're important for you to recognize and to see what they are, but how important versus it is to be focusing on other things, because you could go backwards all day long if you want. It probably means you're not going to go anywhere, right? So we live daily life based on the beliefs that we have in place. Often we don't even know that we are doing this. And it's best, and to be honest, we give them a front row ticket to our life, maybe even a VIP seat. Yes, limiting beliefs are very real, and they have a tremendous power over our patterns and our daily living. But the credit we give them, in effect, gives them power to keep controlling us. So the idea is that we know what these beliefs are. For instance, I believe that love is born from friendship. I believe that we have to work 50-hour work weeks to make money. I believe that we have to do things we don't want to do. It's called life. I believe I'm socially awkward, which prevents me from connecting. I believe I'm not educated enough to have the job with meaning. I believe I'm responsible for people around me. So it's important that we understand these limiting beliefs, but it's important that we don't stay there, right? we have to know the problem in order to fix it. But if we stay there and focus our attention on them, like, oh, I have this, that's why this is happening. Oh, I have this is why it's happening. Oh, I have this is why it's happening. Then we're never going to get past it, right? So you have to almost switch those out a little bit and start kind of shifting your thinking, if you will. So once we know them, we also must learn to shut them down, is what I mean. So our continued focus on these beliefs are what keep us attached to them. But if you were to focus on your infinite beliefs, wait, what? Yes, you have infinite beliefs. This is probably one of my favorite things ever to teach, because nobody ever told you that you have infinite beliefs. You don't practice them. You don't exercise them. Nobody told you that you've had them. I'm telling you, you have them. So here's a few that I try to live by. And typically we get hung up on the limiting ones. That's why we can't really, like, we're so attached to them. That's why we can't really even think about these infinite ones, right? But I like to use some of these. I believe I can get along with anyone who is willing to deep think with me. I believe I can acquire the resources to build something special. I believe I'm capable of learning anything. I believe we're all magical in our own unique way. I believe we can facilitate and inspire others with our gifts. I believe I can think my way to a happy and healthy life. Pretty cool, right? Like, when you start thinking about attaching yourself to these kind of beliefs as the first thought in the morning, instead of when you wake up and start going, okay, how am I going to deal with these limiting beliefs? I know I have them, which is really good strategy, but you start looking at it as a means of conditioning yourself to get rid of conditions. And we can't do that, okay? So I know, like, those aren't the thoughts that we've been trained to do, like a garden variety of them, but you might identify with them more because, you know, you've been practicing those other ones for such a long time, and you might be thinking, hey, I could really shift that way. And I encourage you to do the work to do that. My next one, are you ready to write the next one down? Is you open your mind. I love this one. I love this space because this means more than what it just feels like at face value. I have long believed that the direct pathway to your best and most potential is having an open mind. To do this, you have to consume things that support that idea. If you look at your life right now, I want you to think about how much that you're doing this on a daily basis. How much content are you seeking out right now to show you a different way? What are you seeking that gives you a perspective on self? Who are you hanging out with or seeking to connect with to learn something from? And if these aren't regular practices in your everyday life, you're going to close your mind off from things that can really alter your life. So this is why, like, as we age, we have a harder time changing, right? We become kind of stuck in our ways. There's a reason for that little cliche saying, is because it really happens. And you can easily, you know, step sideways from that by doing some work, right? Some inner work and learning some new stuff. So as we get older, we tend to become really interested and consumed by things like pop culture and space exploration and science and politics and government. And those things are important to know. I'm not suggesting that you abandon those ideas, but a lot of those things talk about the problems of which are going on in our world rather than the good things that might be going on in our world. So choose to learn things that actually open up your personal world, because that is where you're going to be your personal best. It only makes sense, right? So I see a lot of people who are really smart. They're like in walking encyclopedias, and yet they're not super duper happy with just self, right? They're just not, they're not growing in that particular way necessarily. And you can make a choice to start doing that kind of inner work, or you can just decide to live on the surface. You can look for things external of you to try to make you happy, or you can look within and really find true happiness. So this is coming from somebody who wasn't really great in school, you know, like I needed, you know, I couldn't pick my pathway to learning. I had to learn what I was told to learn, and then I didn't do so well in school. Now I can't think about a day going by where I don't learn something about myself and how I function and how my beliefs work in alignment with my conditions or against them, and running towards that is not always the path of least resistance. In fact, you're going to find more resistance there. But what you will find on the other side of that resistance is reward, and true rewarding of self, and knowing that, who you are in this world and in this environment. Okay, so here's my next one. You choose action over reaction. So I know that you've heard this before, right? I'm not necessarily telling anything you don't know, but I think it's really important to bring up in this space, because while we've heard this concept over and over again since probably we were little kids, thanks to Newton, we can also bring this physics kind of element into the, human game-changing tactic space. We know that it's not always best to react. Yeah, right? I mean, how many times have you heard this said to you by your parents or a teacher or something like that? But when you start breaking down your day, I want you to think about how much time you're spending reacting to the things around you. Reacting to an email, reacting to your boss, reacting to the way that your children woke up, reacting to jury duty, reacting to your father's criticism, reacting to your mother's nagging, reacting to your hungry stomach, reacting to a bill in your mailbox, your alarm clock, your sicknesses, right? Your poor choices. So we live in a world that requires us to react. I'm not suggesting that you can't do that and you can just be oblivious to it. But to know how much time you spend on that versus on the other side of acting, well, you start seeing the imbalance and it becomes profound, right? So while we live in this reactionary space, and while it does just kind of become part of that human experience, but being in a constant state of this performance creates a certain vibration. And when you transmit a reaction to receive more to react to, then you get more to react to, right? So you can't transmit and receive in two different vibrations, okay? So you can't say hope for abundance while confirming the lack of it in your life. You see what I mean? You can't start where the root of the problem is. You can't change that pattern in your belief or conditioning in your mind by starting with the deficit. You have to either deal with it at its deficit or you have to step over it. You can't go, well, I'm just going to change my life by positive thinking. It doesn't work that way. There's much more biology involved in it than just changing your mind, okay? The next one I want to talk to you about is checking your desires. This is one of my favorite because I think desires are super important. Sorry, earbud is coming out of my ear. I think desires are super important. They are things that we both share and don't share. They're some of our deepest, darkest secrets that we choose to share with people or not to share with people. But I love this concept, and here's why. So we have desires, yes, all of us to some degree. We desire to be abundant, to purchase maybe a bigger home. We desire to have a good job, to have great kids. We desire to go on vacations to unique places. We desire to have a beautiful garden. We desire to spend lots of time with our families. But do you ever notice that how your good desires make you feel really, really good, but yet when you doubt your desires, they make you feel like really bad, like torturous bad? You notice that? A desire to have like a dozen donuts, but you know that's not good for you. A desire to be in love, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. A desire to have money, but look at my bank account, right? And what we desire gains momentum, whether it's good or bad, right? Desire doesn't know the difference. So when it gains momentum, when you have this thought of like, oh my gosh, my bank account, my bank account, my bank account, and you have this desire to have all this abundance in your life, this idea keeps gaining more and more control over you, more and more momentum, and you keep trying to make decisions based on that space rather than based on an abundant space, yeah? And we try to shut down the desire with a POV, like a new perspective. That's not you trying to be maybe at odds with yourself so much as it's just you being realistic, right? That's what we always say. Oh, well, I'm not contradicting myself. I'm just being realistic. Yes, I want the donuts. I can't have them. They make me fat. That's reality. right? I desperately want to be in love, but I'm fine alone. I'm strong. I'm independent. I shouldn't want for somebody to come into my life and make me secure and happy. We align with our desires in so many ways, but we do it kind of on the back end, and it's very interesting how we use them to almost sabotage ourselves. And we can do this a lot with our senses. We kind of attach our senses to these desire spaces. So if you haven't experienced it, it becomes something that's far less tangible. If you can't see it, you don't believe it. If you can't smell it, if you can't feel it, if you can't hear it, it doesn't seem possible, right? These senses are what keep you from an ideal life. This attachment of the physical self to your desires are literally what are holding you back from having what you want. I have to say, I struggle with this all the time. We are so built on this physical space, right? We're so, as soon as the body, the ego or the mind attaches to the I, the physical, it's all downhill from there. And I don't say that to give you this doubting feeling, but it really does change the scope of what we're here to do, because we relate so much to what we are in the physical form of I. So when you can detach your senses from these things and make things more possible for yourself mentally, from an energy standpoint, from an energy vibration place, then you will see things come into focus a little bit better for you. And it's kind of fascinating to watch that work happen. Next one, are you ready? You refuse to live at the surface. So truth be told, we all have to live on the surface, right? At certain times. I mean, well, in this daily space, we have to live, working among people we maybe not want to work with. We have to live on the surface by even driving a car, mailing a letter, buying food, making a payment, talking to a stranger, making small talk, right? And so on and so on. And so there's really no avoiding this. But I will argue that you can choose how much time you spend there. And you do this internally. You do this with your mind space all the time. I have this newer rule in my life. If I can't connect at a deep level, I don't do much of it. Like if it doesn't make me that happy, if it's not serving me in some ways, I don't spend a ton of time there. Now, I can't avoid it. I mean, if I'm dealing with someone that's not happy or is unpleasant, or my child's unhappy or unpleasant, or somebody at a job is bothering me because I work right next to them in the cube, you have to stand and wait in line for something, right? But I'm noticing now how I'm shifting my attention to something deeper when I'm caught in these spaces. So surface level living, which is a space that we kind of call reality in this dimension, is not much that I try not to spend a lot of time there. And it's not to say that I don't like spending time here. I mean, I love living in the real world, and for the most, this is a human experience. I think it's a privilege to have this human experience. But I just would rather live deeply, think deeper, connect deeper. And it's just, I don't vibe as high in the surface level space. So I use deeper conversations with myself, at times with other people, to create a bigger version for myself or a bigger impact on my work. So that's just the gist of me bringing this up to you, is to choosing to spend more time digging. And so you spend less time searching, for what you want. And when you're constantly digging, you're finding more meaning. It brings more meaning to your life, instead of constantly looking on the surface for the answers, which tends to be where the hamster wheels all remain, or all lie in front of you. Okay. Let's see. My next one is, you get real about your talents. This one's hard. This one's been hard for me. We have all pondered at one time what it would be like to maybe be a pro athlete, or a rock star, or an actress, or even a Nobel Peace Prize winning educator of some sort. Yes. And at times even, we might even believe we have, maybe not as much to offer as those people, because we weren't given these kind of special talents or gene pools, this genetic code to become famous like them, or notorious in that way. And it leaves you maybe feeling a little less than when it comes to the human race. And I think it's easy to slip into that space. I think we all have, to a degree. It's a comparison model, yeah. I'm asking that you get really clear about your talents, and make a move with them. Because maybe you don't have the voice of like a Celine Dion, for instance, but maybe you have a deep passion for music that can somehow be utilized in the real world in either a teaching form or a hobby form that really is very fulfilling, but just maybe looks different than what you imagine it could be. Maybe you're not QB material, a quarterback material. Sorry, there's commotion out there. Material for the NFL, but I'd argue that if you really love sports that way, you could still teach someone to be a great quarterback. You could study it just as way you would as if you were trying to become one, a pro athlete in that respect. And how could you take that talent of wanting and the desire of wanting to learn it so well that you could teach others to fulfill a dream that maybe looks a little differently for you? And I'll tell you, it does happen. I had to really relook at my dance career growing up because I wasn't the best dancer. And while a lot of my friends didn't have a professional dance career like I did, I still found myself, not getting jobs and not, being laughed at in auditions and, not getting, parts that I really, really wanted. And I left dance for a really long time, even in my young adult years, my prime dancing years. And I came back to it because I really just decided that it was going to look different for me, that it didn't have to look the way that, I perceived it to be. And so I shifted that way of thinking. I shifted that talent of mine into a different realm. And even that's taking on a new different space now. I'm passing torches more often now, and I'm letting other people take, my space where I would technically be dancing. I'm letting them have that time and that glory while I pursue other things that I'm super fascinated and interested in. So it's time to get real about your talents, because if you're banking on what you're not banking obviously on what you are. And if you spend more time in that space of hoping and wishing you could, do something, you're not giving the attention to the true talents that you have, which may be more of a supporting actor or supporting actress role. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. You could be really happy in that space, believe me. Ask any actress or actor. All right? The next one. Ready? You don't fall for your own bullshit. When you start wanting to have a better relationship with yourself, you start becoming far more aware of your bullshit. It's a duality relationship. It's why either you decide to get really to let it be bigger than you, or you decide to be your amazing self. I mean, it just depends on where you fall on this spectrum. But it's annoying because I catch myself in this scarcity mode all the time. It's a habit. I chemically make it sometimes. And it's not so because it's a reminder that my bank account is dwindling or my resources are drying up of some sort or whatever. It's annoying because I freaking know the difference, right? I know better. I know not to slip into that mode, but yet I still do it. And so it's real easy to get yourself locked into, your bullshit, basically. And I know that it only takes one thought of this reality to make it more real for myself. So yes, the good thing is that I can recognize it, yes. And you too now can maybe start recognizing some of this bullshit that you really attach yourself to, because it's far worse being blind to it, right? And when we're blind to this bullshit, we become a target for it. So when we recognize these BS things about ourselves, what do? We listen. When we want to find them and we want to see them, we want to seek them out, we listen to the thousands of words that we say to ourselves on a daily basis. That is where your bullshit lies. So it's said that we say 400 words to ourselves per minute. 400 words. Start listening to those words. Start listening to what they're really saying to you. And that is where you'll start catching some of those BS stories. Things like, gosh, he woke up on the wrong side of the bed again this morning. What am I doing to make this happen? My boss told me that I have to stay hours after work for this meeting. I knew it. I'm getting canned. I have this new thing in my life and somebody's trying to take it away from me. Why does everyone want to argue with me? And why won't anybody hire me? Some of those kind of, BS things that we tell ourselves. And then we meticulously and miraculously bring them to life. You see it happening in everywhere in your life because you've become a target for it, right? You must start learning to be your own bullshit detector if you're going to get to the really yummy part of life. So not so long ago, I was working with someone, like a client of mine, who things didn't really work out, and it was fine. Like we went our separate ways, but it's somebody who constantly argued with me about trying to do the work and not thinking that the work was really working for them because they weren't really truly doing the work. And it's okay though, because we just came to realize after, well, at least I did, that, if you can just let them go and let them do their own thing and let them, find their own journey and path, it's really best for everybody. But it was this BS thing that I kept trying to fight a little bit of, going, I really can't help you. Please just listen to me. Please, let me, guide you, when that person's not ready to hear that yet, right? So, yeah. So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to chat with you today. Change your patterns, you blow up your beliefs, you open your mind, you choose your action over reaction, you check your desires, you refuse to live at the surface, and you get real about your talents and become your own bullshit detector. Okay, so those are the things that I would start with first when it comes to being a game changer. Oh, I'm getting comfortable here. And if you want to do some more work on this, I'm actually doing this really crazy thing. Sometimes I don't know where I get these crazy ideas from. So for the first 5 people that take advantage of this, if you want to start working on some of these things and detecting some of them and start game changing your daily life for the next, is it 3 weeks? 21 days basically. Okay, I like 21 days because it's a good habit forming space. I am for 5 people only because I won't have the time to do it otherwise. Every morning I am going to do a 15-minute focused game changer macro session with you for 21 days. Okay? On the weekends, I'm going to give you tasks. So I'm going to actually just send you things on the weekends to do that are more task oriented. So we won't be talking on those weekend days, but you won't get out of my hands because I'll still have a grip on you on those days. But Monday through Friday, we'll get to talk one-on-one for 15 minutes and really game change you. So if you are one of those 5 people who are like, I'm ready, I totally need that in my life, that I know that that's the kind of push that I need to get me to the next level, then you're going to want to message me ASAP to claim one of those spots, okay? And I'll give you the details for that when you message me. But if you're not, please don't bother, because I don't have time, neither do you, to waste on, flitting and fluttering from one thing to another and thinking that this is, I'm going to change you. I'm not going to change you. I'm not going to hold your hand or push you through this. But I'm going to mentally push you into helping yourself. That's what I'm here for, and that's the kind of work that I do. So if you're ready, then I want to hear from you. I hope that was some great insight on some of the things that you can do to start really being a game changer. I'm super stoked that you were here, and if you have any questions, by all means, post those below, and I'll be happy to chime in. Tell me your aha moments and what have you. I love that. So I think that's about it, guys. It's been great. Thanks so much for coming and joining me for this class, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye.